All right. Good morning. We are so excited to have you join us. Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you're joining us from. It is the last day of JNUC, and we're super excited to have our guests here today to hear more about the education endgame. Deployment doesn't stop at the classroom door. Joining me up here on the stage, we have Dr. Rachel Stanika, Paul Raby, and my partner in crime, Mike Lawrence. So with that, I'm going to hand over the mic to Mike to get started.
I see what
Thanks,
you did
guys.
there. Nicely done. Very good. So you've seen this forward-looking statement disclaimer. I won't read it to you. You're welcome. But as Emily mentioned, we are here to talk about the education endgame, how deployment goes beyond the classroom door. And I brought some fantastic co-presenters to help with this. And we're going to focus on the collaborative efforts that really, truly create powerful learning environments for our students. So with that, who are we? Emily just mentioned our names. I'm one of two education leadership executives here at Jamf. You met the other one just moments ago. And I spent years as an English teacher, high school English teacher. Shout out to teachers, any teachers in the room? Okay. And Apple Distinguished Educator. And for 12 years, I was the executive director and eventually CEO of Q, Computer Using Educators. It's a nonprofit ed tech association in California. And I am joined by Rachel, and I'll have Rachel and Paul introduce themselves.
Hello, I'm Rachel Stanika. I am an instructional technology coach at Minnetonka Public Schools. I've been in education for 20 years, and this is 7 years as an instructional technology coach. Part of this journey as a coach, I did take the Apple Learning Coach certification.
Mm-hmm. Any Apple Learning Coaches in the classroom? All right, yeah. Any Apple teachers in the classroom? Yay, all right, fantastic. And Paul.
Good morning, I'm Paul. I've been with Minnetonka Public Schools for about 9 years, and I've been in the K-12 IT field for just about 17. So I've been in Jamf admin since 2008, back when it was known as Casper.
Very good, the friendly ghost. Exactly. So who are you? We got a couple of quick answers, but how many of you are, as this session brings together the IT and the curriculum side, how many of you would categorize yourself more on the IT side? Raise your hands. Okay, most of the group here. More on the curriculum side? Okay, are there any like hybrids, folks that manage both? You get to do both the curriculum ed tech side as well as the, okay, all right, fantastic. Any other folks, administrators, any high ed folks, vendor partners, librarians? I always throw it out because librarians are awesome. Okay, great. Glad to have all of you here. Thanks so much for coming. Here's our agenda. This is what we'll cover. We've already done the first one. We're going to talk about what it means to build that integrated team and what the Apple Classroom looks like in the hands of professional teachers. And then Paul will give us a glimpse behind the scenes at Minnetonka and tell us what it takes. And then I'll jump in with Jamf Teacher and how we can use that to focus learning. And then Dr. Emily will pop back up and we'll do some Q&A. So as I'm sure you're used to now, you go into the module in the app and you pose any of your questions there. You can upvote them or downvote them, I suppose. And then we can also answer those questions at the end. If we don't get to them all, I'll be sticking around. I think Paul and Rachel have a little bit of time before their plane takes off. So if you have questions for us that we didn't get to, please don't hesitate to stick around and join us there. So after decades of seeing different deployments across my career, I see that there's a consistent pattern that emerges. And that pattern is when you could potentially have individual success as long as someone's career at a campus or at a district exists. But then often when they leave, that success fades. Doesn't have that individual driver of success. But if you want to have long-term success, it's really when you get the persistent innovation that comes with a cross-functional or an integrated team. And that comes together with the shared values, with clear responsibilities, and most important, a solid vision for student success. And that's what we see in Minnetonka. So we've got the team here, part of the team, and they're going to hear from both of them to see how they built that successful implementation. And that remembering that doesn't end at the classroom door, and that's where those devices are delivered. It's a shared journey of discovery in every classroom if you do it right. So we'll start with the end game in mind, student learning. With that, I'll hand off to Dr. Stanika. I think it likes to be a little higher. There you go.
There we go.
There's an advantage to tall people, just for you.
So I'll introduce a little bit about Minnetonka Public Schools. We're located in the western suburbs of Minneapolis, Minnesota. Minnetonka Public Schools contains 12 schools and approximately 11,000 students. We're known for innovation and technology integration in education, and we have a long history of implementing digital learning initiatives and providing students access to cutting-edge resources. Our goal with tech is to leverage technology to enhance teaching and empower students. To support this goal, we have full-time instructional technology coaches like myself, and the collaborative efforts between the instructional technology coaches and the teaching and learning team and our IT department are essential for fostering our technology-rich learning environment. In the summer of 2020, everyone knows, right? We added K-3 iPads to our already existing grades 4 through 12 one-to-one iPad environment. Elementary teachers received about 6+ hours of online modules at that time that were focused on framing our one-to-one environment, growth mindset work, and iPad basics. We encouraged teachers at that time to get their Apple teacher badges. We also focused on blended learning in that training. During the 21-22 school year, elementary teachers specifically started voicing that students really didn't know how to use the iPad for learning, that they were spending lots of time changing the lock screen, just constantly changing that images, searching Google for images, downloading all the apps in self-service, looking up and watching videos on YouTube, and they really felt overwhelmed by managing student behavior and started to use the devices less and less. So at Minnetonka, we have a culture of innovation. So as tech coaches, we used a framework that we were familiar with, design thinking, or human-centered design, to address the feedback that we are hearing from teachers and observing in the classrooms. So during the empathy stage, we talked about how we could curate the student iPad experience and came up with an analogy. So imagine children's technology use as a bowling alley and the children as bowling balls. Just like in real life, some young bowlers might need a little help to stay on track and avoid getting stuck in the gutters. The bumpers in a bowling alley keep the ball rolling in the right direction. We realized we needed to set bumpers for technology at the elementary level specifically for technology use at school to keep children at different developmental stages engaged and on track with using their tech for learning. From that, we defined a project goal to promote and model developmentally appropriate digital wellness by customizing iPad for early learners, reduce distractions, curate choices as much as possible, while upholding our philosophy to empower students to use digital tools for learning, for decision-making, problem-solving, making healthy choices, and creativity. So once the tech coach team had the vision, the next step was the communication and collaboration with our IT department, our IT network enterprise and software administrator, Paul, who's here with me. He's our in-house Jamf admin rock star, and he helped us to create a prototype beginning with our primary grades. We also collaborated with our communications department on branding and image specifications for the set background and lock screen as a visual reminder for students that it is the district iPad. We launched the managed layout configuration for grades K-3 during the 22-23 school year. We received overwhelmingly positive feedback from teachers, and so we've added that to 4th and 5th grade and our Tonka Online for this school year. So modern classrooms are complex, as we all know. They require the seamless integration of diverse technologies, digital resources, and online platforms, which requires teachers to be proficient in managing and utilizing these tools effectively. Additionally, the inclusion of students with various learning needs and the demand for personalization and instruction add further layers of complexity to the classroom dynamics. Balancing traditional teaching methods with innovative technology, fostering digital literacy, and ensuring equitable access to resources are ongoing challenges that educators face in the modern classroom. The managed layout is one layer that we use to create a positive environment and digital use for our students, but we also use Apple Classroom to solve several other problems commonly faced by teachers navigating the modern environment. How teachers use Classroom is all about how it is framed by leadership. For example, when training staff, we consciously showcase how Classroom facilitates collaboration by enabling teachers to lock and pause the screens for turn-in talks instead of using that feature to gain compliance. We highlight how teachers can use Classroom to facilitate group projects, discussions, and peer learning opportunities. And we purposely include students in the framing by explicitly sharing the why with them and how Classroom works. For example, how they know when their teacher is viewing their screen and how to accept a resource that is shared with them through Classroom. We introduce Classroom to our teachers as a digital teaching assistant. As an entry point, we show teachers how they can view student screens in real time, which enables them to see what students are working on and help them identify and address students' needs promptly. In addition, teachers use this feature to view student responses to digital quizzes, polls, and whiteboard work. That's the images I have up here. So the one on your left is just an example of an SEL activity where the students select a color to show how they're feeling, and then the teacher can view and kind of take a temperature of the room in that way. And then the one on your right is just an example of whiteboarding using Keynote and how students can respond, and the teacher can review their responses. This allows for just-in-time analysis of student performance. Teachers can offer immediate feedback and support, making it easier to address misconceptions or provide guidance, thereby enhancing learning outcomes and adapt their instruction to meet individual needs by assessing student progress real time. Teachers use Apple Classroom to distribute digital resources such as handouts and web links directly to student devices. Distributing resources with Classroom saves instructional minutes by ensuring all students can access the required materials timely. Teachers can send personalized assignments or learning activities to specific students or groups. This allows for differentiated instruction, catering to each student's learning styles, pace, and level of understanding. Individualized tasks help students stay engaged and motivated. To talk about how we make this all possible, I'll hand off to Paul.
Thank you, Rachel. Here at Minnetonka, we've been a one-to-one district since 2011. Our IT staff are able to leverage online tools to manage our fleet of devices, including over 13,000 iOS devices and 500 Mac OS clients. We utilize Jamf to distribute our apps and content in our recently hosted environment. To optimize our wireless experience, each classroom is outfitted with at least one wireless access point. We use 11 caching servers throughout our district to expedite app and OS downloads for our students and staff. Our tech staff are involved from the unboxing process to the setup of devices with staff and students. This includes this summer, we just got done deploying about 4,000 iPads.
Right. Oh, there was a build. Sorry, it's still going.
Yeah. All right. We also use Skyward for our SIS at Minnetonka. So we use Apple's built-in templates to export our classes for Apple Classroom, which includes about 5,700 classes on a weekly basis and throughout the school year. So the Classroom app is available inside self-service for all of our teaching staff to install and help manage their students inside their classroom. Once the teachers launch the Classroom app, they're able to choose their classes on the left-hand panel. Then they can see their students by their pictures or their names. We use a third-party vendor to obtain our students' pictures, so we can host those on a Linux box internally. So that way it helps the teaching staff figure out who's in their classroom. We're now piloting a new tool at Minnetonka to focus learning even further, and for that I'll hand it off to Mike.
Great. Thank you, Paul. And that new tool, of course, is Jamf Teacher, and I'll talk a little bit about that. So Jamf Teacher is something that's baked into Jamf Pro or School. It comes with purchase. You don't have to pay for anything extra to get Jamf Teacher. It's also true for Jamf Parent, which we won't talk about in this session, but it's another application that comes with either of our school MDMs and is available to you at no cost. As Paul mentioned, they're looking into it as the next innovation. They are piloting it with a group of 20 teachers. I'm going to jump on a Zoom call and help them out when we get things rolling this year. And we're really excited about the potential of it working alongside Apple Classroom. So you heard about Apple Classroom from Rachel and all the great things you're doing, and Paul, at Minnetonka with Apple Classroom. So you might ask, they already have Apple Classroom, Mike. What do they need with Jamf Teacher? Aren't they the same tool? They are not. They actually have some overlap, but they work collaboratively together. I say it's like peanut butter and chocolate, two great tastes that go great together. That's not marketing approved. Emily, don't mention that. I didn't say that. Jamf Teacher partners with Apple Classroom and should be used in conjunction with Apple Classroom. This chart here shows you some of the few ways that the features differ between the two tools. So you can see on Apple Classroom, they can actually pull up and view the student screens, see which students are working and which ones are maybe off task or where they've gotten in terms of progress. We don't have that in Jamf Teacher. There's no point. It's already in Apple Classroom. We offer it via Wi-Fi. So during the pandemic, you can actually work remotely with students, even if they're in various separated locations. We can, and Apple Classroom now does that, but only in a MAID's environment. Let's see other things here. As you can see on this list, I won't read all of it to you. Another feature of Jamf Teacher that I won't have time to dive into is it can proctor remote assessments. So if you want to run quizzes, you can have the camera turn on so you could see that it is the student that they say they are while they're taking the exam, and you can present that screen to walk them through and proctor them in a classroom. So the way in which we recommend that they use this, and this is what I'll be working with Minnetonka on, is you use Jamf Teacher to plan your lessons. You actually go ahead and figure out what you're going to be doing when, build it into a preset playlist, if you will. We call it a lesson. And then when you get into the classroom, you start with Jamf Teacher, then you jump over to Apple Classroom, and you engage students using Apple Classroom. Then when you're done with the lesson, jump back to Jamf Teacher, into the lesson. It's that simple. So some of the exciting ways that Jamf Teacher builds upon Apple Classroom are towards the bottom of this list. And you'll notice that it has built-in app requests. That's available for the full functionality when you use Jamf School. And that allows teachers to alert IT staff of some great app opportunities that they might want to think about adding. I already mentioned the proctoring. So to start, I wanted to think about how do students learn. Think back to your own challenging, perhaps, but successful learning experiences. Learning often happens in those environments when creative constraints have been applied, when you're challenged, when you're struck with limited resources. And there's a word for this. It's finitude. As an English teacher, I get excited when I learn new words, and I didn't ever hear this word until about 2 years ago. And it's the state of having limits or creative constraints. And so I like to think of that as like, how many of you have ever gone to an improv show? You've gone to a show where there's improv actors. Okay, we have one improv fan. Okay, the rest of you're missing out. So they come out to the front of the stage, the team, one of them usually, and they ask the audience, okay, give me a profession, okay, give me a relationship, and they just get some ideas from the audience. Then they go back and they huddle for a second, and then when the performers come out, they perform within those limits. And so I ask the question, why do they impose limits on themselves? Before they ask those questions, they could have done any sketch to get the audience to laugh, to entertain. But they ask for those limitations because it unlocks their creative juices. It forces them to get really creative to fit within the constraints the audience has given them. I think students operate the same way. We all operate the same way when we're learning. It's that old phrase of necessity is the mother of invention. When you only have 3 tools, those are the tools you're going to use to build out whatever you're trying to create. So when you say, all right, everyone, we're going to use freeform today, and that's how you're going to build out a plan for your research project or a plan for your presentation, the students really will respond and excel. So Jamf Teacher is an app that enables some of that functionality of the MDM right in the convenience of the app, without having to touch the console, which is great for the IT team. They don't have to get inundated with requests from teachers for, hey, for the next 30 minutes, I only want these apps on these iPads. The teacher can do that themselves. It empowers the teacher because they can then focus the students' learning and limit their attention to just the apps and websites that they want them to be using. It's native iOS and Mac app. And it also has a web app, which means teachers don't have to have an iPad in their hands. So if your school environment has the teachers on a laptop or a desktop even, they can still use Jamf Teacher. They just log into the web app and version of it and control the students' iPad devices from that console. So let's have a look at some of the cool things you can do with Jamf Teachers app. And here we have two iPads. The one on the left is the teacher iPad. And I'm going to go ahead and start the build here, and you'll watch the video on the left. So the teacher goes into Jamf Teacher. It's just the app in the bottom in the dock. They choose a class. In this case, it's class 1, I think they pick. No, 2. They choose class 2. This class is special, only has one student, Lonely Liam. And so Liam's device is on the right side. And they're going to go through and say, okay, here's the apps that I want Liam to have access to. It's an opt-in. Everything is by default off. So every check that you see that teacher make is an app that Liam will have available during the course of the time for this lesson. And now the magic happens on the right side. Watch the iPad. Boom, all the apps disappear. Liam now has only access to the apps the teacher wants Liam to be using during the lesson. And then when the lesson is over, they hit end, and Liam's apps will reappear as if by magic. So this is the kind of power that we're talking about. They're experiencing it already at Minnetonka through Apple Classroom in single app mode. The difference with Jamf Teacher is you can have multiple apps. So you can limit it to several apps instead of just that single app. So that's App Lock. We just renamed it with the update to Jamf School, and it's now called, Jamf Teacher, and it's now called Application Restrictions or App Restrictions. I'll show you web restrictions. It used to be called Web Lock. Here's Lonely Liam again, and you'll see the teachers in class 2, and now we're going to limit where Liam can go on the web. And so it's, again, an opt-in. Everything is blocked except for the web addresses that the teacher's typing in right now. The really nice thing about this is for the littles, they don't have to type in long addresses and potentially get a mistake in that, because the web, as we know, is very unforgiving when it comes to URL addresses. So that's been applied. Here's it is, and there's the favorites. So Liam can go to those 2 websites, and he doesn't even have to type in the address. He just hits the favorite. So here he is scrolling through one of those websites. Now he's going to go to the second website. Liam's a quick learner, so he's zipping through this. And eventually, as kids might do, and adults for that matter, Liam is going to try to go somewhere that wasn't included in this lesson. So here we go. He's typing in Google. And Liam's in the UK, so he's going to type the UK address. And no, denied. He's blocked. So that's the message that you get when you try to go to a website that you can't go to. It also blocks subpages as well. If the student tries to browse to that other website, they'll see that they cannot. So again, this is a great way for teachers to ensure that their students are still on task by taking away possible distractions on the device. Of course, having these tools at your fingertips and on an ad hoc basis is great, but teachers often use the same set of apps and websites each lesson with a given class. So in Jamf Teacher, we have something we call lessons. And these are essentially preset recipes for learning, where they can plan ahead, hit go, and then when they do that, in my case as an English teacher, I did the same lesson sometimes 5 times a day. If I taught the same prep, English 1, English 2, English 3, I would then just start and stop it 5 times. In the elementary setting, it could be something that you hit once a year. So here's the photosynthesis lesson that we cover in the 3rd quarter. Well, here, go. And then you run it, and then you stop it, and then you save it. The other cool thing is you can share it across your grade level teams or your department teams. So I did the photosynthesis lesson, but my teammates might build the other ones. And then we share those amongst ourselves, and again, save teacher time for what we want them to focus on, which is student learning. So here's a teacher actually building a lesson. And apologies, this is the old user interface. The Jamf Teacher that you would experience today is a slightly more streamlined user interface that aligns more closely to Apple Classroom. So the same functionality exists, it just looks slightly different. I missed the first part here, but I think this teacher is now putting in the allowed apps. Again, it's opt-in, everything is blocked unless you check it. This has had a lot of apps in this particular lesson. And then I think we're going to add in some URLs. Yep, so here's the URLs that the teacher wants the students to have access to. And then you'll also see that you can block out certain, restrict certain functionality, like if you don't want the camera to be able to be used during this lesson. Or if it's a spelling test, perhaps, maybe you want to turn off spell check. Those are features you can build into an existing lesson, and it stays with that lesson. So every time you run it, all those things kick in. Once you've created that lesson, you can also share it with other teachers in your schools or department. And so this is now a video, and I think for the time's sake, I'm going to move us forward. This video will play for a second, but it's actually how you would go about configuring the class and applying it and starting a lesson. But for time's sake, I'm going to move us forward, if I can. Looks like I cannot. There we go. Another aspect of it, this is similar to Apple Classroom. You can actually attach resources to a lesson and PDFs or other documents. This is a teacher going through and adding those as we speak. It's pretty powerful. All of this talks to the student app, which is also included in purchase of any MDM that we offer. And that is essentially the student's ability to update their own apps and manage their own device to some degree. Again, taking the load off of the teacher and the IT staff. You can also, in this, you can reset student passwords. It's the #1 request we get from teachers often is how to reset student passwords. And you can make sure that they can get access to the apps that have already been set up through their VPP licenses. Here's a quick example of a pain point that could work if your setup is correct in terms of how you talk to the SIS, your Student Information System, through Apple School Manager. If you pull the photos from that, you can actually update, and it goes upstream from Jamf Teacher to Apple Classroom. So if the student's kindergarten photo is still their accurate photo and they're in 4th grade now, you could actually take their picture in the classroom and it goes upstream to Apple Classroom. We found that this was a pain point and we found a way to address it right in Jamf Teacher. So looking at the time, we've got a little bit of minutes here left before questions. So I'll just walk you through a few resources in terms of professional learning. So we've actually built some resources and made some resources available for you to help deploy these EDU apps. And we like to think of it as part of a broader ecosystem within Jamf and Apple solutions. And so this will animate here, but you can see Apple Teacher we talked about and Apple Learning Coach. We also have our own Jamf Educator certification, which I'll show you in just a minute. But with any of our MDMs, Pro or School, you could then deploy all these different friendly apps. They're part of our partners program. And then also you can protect all of it with Jamf Safe Internet, which is an added solution that we rolled out last year. It also works at the network level, and it protects not just iOS and Mac, but also Chrome and Windows. So if you're looking for a way to filter content, but also defend against threats that are out there, I'd encourage you to take a look at Jamf Safe Internet. And then we also have, as I mentioned, Jamf Protect and Connect in terms of identity and the Mac OS security solutions. And then that middle ring gets to the apps we've been talking about. And then the Jamf Marketplace is all the other partners and apps and solutions that we have available. So I mentioned Jamf Educator. It's a certification platform that you can use. It costs nothing. It also is wonderful in the sense that you can use it to train teachers before you deploy Jamf Teacher. They don't have to have an iPad. They just log in with a Jamf ID, which is free, and they go through a 4-step certification process to learn how to use Jamf Teacher. And again, it's the older UI, but it's going to be changed shortly. But it has the same functionality. It shows them how to build those app restrictions, how to build those web restrictions, and then how to create a lesson. Once you get through those steps, you get a badge. You get the Jamf Educator badge. It's super cool. Teachers love it. Your tech coaches might also want to go through this, and we have a separate strand for them. It's the second button, and they would learn how not only how to use Jamf Teacher, but how to teach teachers how to use Jamf Teacher, which is great if your district has instructional coaches or tech coaches or mentors of some kind, as Minnetonka's does. So that's available for you. It's all at educator.jamf.com. Another great resource that I always like to share is Jamf Nation. We're here at JNUC. You guys obviously are aware of Jamf Nation. Did you know we have a hub just for education? It's where you can go to start conversations, participate in conversations, share successes, and that's something that I would encourage you to take a look at. I post in there, Emily posts in there. We'd love to see more and more education customers pop in there. You probably know about our Learning Catalog, but did you know about our Learning Hub? This is where all of the resources come together, whether they be YouTube videos, documentation, or actual instructional courses. So the Jamf 100 is linked from the Learning Hub. 200, the brand new Jamf School 240 is in here as well. And it's at learn.jamf.com is the Learning Hub. Super easy URL, learn.jamf.com. So with that, I'll hand off to Dr. Emily, and we can do some Q&A. And while she's walking up, I'll put in a thank you. Thank you all for coming, and we appreciate it. We got our emojis up here. Did you see?
I love it. I love it. Do I need to be on the stage? Okay, I'm on the stage. This is a cozy stage, guys.
Yes.
All right, our first question is from an anonymous caller. When a teacher creates a class and during that class he or she realizes an app is missing, can they add or remove the apps during that class time?
Are we talking about classroom or Jamf teacher?
It's not clear, so maybe we answer to both.
Yeah. So in Apple Classroom, how would you answer that?
Well, the student would need to have all the students and the teacher need to have that app on the iPad. I mean, so that would be the first check.
And the teacher could then go back and make that app available in Apple Classroom.
Yes.
In Jamf Teacher, you could add it in to the lesson. So you would go back into the lesson, edit, and add that app, and then redeploy that lesson. So you'd have to end the lesson quickly, edit the lesson, and then start the new lesson.
So it's doable.
It's doable, totally doable.
All right, here's the next question.
Show more.
Okay, thank you. What login methods work for the web version of Teacher? It would be nice if this had SSO capability, but from past experience, it requires username and password provided by, in my case, Jamf School. Those accounts aren't created by default.
They are not. I think this is a question we need to phone a friend for. One of our SEs can help you with. So sadly, it's anonymous. Oh no, it's not. Steve. Okay, so we'll track Steve Hammond down. We'll get an answer. Is Steve in the room or is Steve virtual? Okay, Steve's virtual. So we'll track Steve down. We'll get him his answer. But Paul, do you know this answer by any chance? Because I know you guys haven't deployed Jamf Teacher yet.
Correct, we have not.
Yeah. So it should be a simple login. It should be something that if you have Jamf Connect, that it's essentially that single sign-on through identity. But we'll get an answer for Steve, and we'll throw that out.
And this last question is for one of our Jamf SEs as well.
Okay.
I don't want to put you guys on the spot with it, but I did phone a friend and she's on her way up here. So we will get this next question answered
All about
remotely.
Jamf Teacher.
Yeah.
All right.
Are there any questions in the room? Come on, guys, last day. This is your chance. You have all four of us up here.
That party was so much fun last night.
So
wasn't
much
it?
fun. All right. Well, with that,
Great.
I think we're done. Thank you, guys.
Appreciate your time.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.